Hey, everybody, welcome to the Jim Master Show Live, Entertainment Lifestyle Variety Talk Show series. Our very special guest joining us live and direct from coastal North Carolina with a light breeze coming off the coast. Sounds a little bit like our area here up north. He's from Morehead City, North Carolina right now, and we're excited to chat with him. We're talking about renowned author of the Apocalypse Games series. This is the book series. First book is out. Next book is coming out in September. DC Smith is with us. DC, welcome to the show. It's good to have you with us.
Thanks, Jim. It's great to be here. Really great.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I just want to let folks know that the book, the new one we're talking about, is a speculative fiction and a supernatural techno thriller, as well as spiritual as well. And it's really fascinating. I mean, I love your writing style, and I love the fact that this is something that you've been working on for quite some time. And it's something that I think page turner worthy, really page turner. You don't want to put these down. And what was the inspiration for first starting this series? Because I know you mentioned there's like 4 books, but then you're condensing and rewriting and really putting them out in the fashion that you are. Tell us about some of that.
I'll tell you, the way the book series came about is it began with a story I used to tell my children when they were very young, a very simple version of it. But it evolved over the years. And when my oldest daughter, who's 33 now, sorry, Alex, for saying that number, when she went to college, she said, you should turn that into a book series. So I began doing that part-time as I was doing other jobs. And it's amazing when you commit to something. And I'm an economist. I have a graduate degree in economics, and I'm an electrical engineer. Not exactly the skill sets that lead to great grammar. So it took, I committed to the journey, and it took a lot of years and a lot of learning to get here. But the story is something that's always been in my mind, which is, in my age, we all understood a pre-internet world where generally most interactions were face to face, and we all got to know one another, and we all realized that no matter what your politics are, Democrat or Republican or anything else, you mostly have the same goals in life. And you mostly have the same values. And in those days, of course, if your car broke down on the side of the road in Oklahoma, the first car stopped to help you. The second one stopped and said, "Does anybody need any help?" And the third one slowed down and kind of waved. These days, of course, our world's not that way. And we have the internet, we have massive media companies, we have social media, and a lot of those giant companies, Google, please forgive me, are dividing people. And so I really wanted to write a story about what happens as science evolves from where we are today, in our contemporary society, with COVID, with plagues, with all sorts of vast economic issues, with war, and probably more war in Asia. And how does that evolve? And how does science play into that? And how does supernatural evil play into that? And how does that all result in an apocalyptic scenario that is very exciting, but yet has some deep meanings? The book series asks people to encourages people to ask some hard questions of themselves.
So, when you were a kid, were you fascinated by sci-fi and thrillers? And did you enjoy the Steven Spielbergs, the Stephen Kings, the Rod Serlings, the George Lucases of the world? Bradbury's. I mean, was that something that spoke to you early on? Were you always fascinated by life and what makes up how we treat each other and the things we decide to do with our lives, and just sort of digging a little bit deeper? This early fascination that you have, did it start really early for you as a kid, DC?
It really did. I can remember, my stories have always been the stories of, the few good against the overwhelming evil. And I don't know why I've always been that dark and gloomy. It's an interesting story that I went through life with a lot of challenges that we could get into. But I'd been single for 18 years when I came to Morehead City. I thought, well, I'm done dating. I'm going to just come here and I'm going to be a writer looking at the water. And of course, the way God works is I met my wife 9 months later. And we were probably a year into dating. And she said, you might be on the autistic scale. So I'm a guy that's run companies, done a lot of things, and always had a
Yeah.
challenge in my interpersonal relationships, a challenge trusting people, really.
Yeah. You're right.
Terrible when I was young. I couldn't talk to anybody, male or female. I just was so wound so tight because I expected the worst. And so I went to a psychiatrist and took a test, and I scored 100 out of 100 on Asperger's syndrome. And so it has really defined my, and that opened the door for me. I finally understood why I've had this dark view of life, because I had this, terrible nightmares, terrible fears of people. But yet that has inspired this story that is about, what happens next. I mean, there's a recent poll, and you might be one of them. I mean, are you one of those people, Jim, that looks at the world and says, what in the world is happening? Where is this train going?
Well, I operate, there's been some things that have been defining me lately from people that I've been chatting with professionally, as far as people I've interviewed on television and radio on a professional level, this series as well. And then just regular conversations I've had with people. And they keep saying three things that are very cool and I find fascinating about me from their deductions. And it's what's really fascinating about it, DC, is none of them knows each other. None of them, and they're all experts in their fields, but none of them knows each other, and none of them knows somebody else has just said something exact. They say, I operate from a higher consciousness. I'm intuitive. I'm a high-level empath. So factoring those things in, being somebody who is always craving harmony and balance as a Libra, somebody who, and I've mentioned a couple of times in this series, the Jim Master Show, craving not extreme and not extreme, but a middle ground, bringing extremes together, trying to work things out, peacemaker, caretaker, fire putter outer, all those types of things. Every day I say, how could that, why did they, are you kidding me? I don't understand. I do understand, but I just say that because that's an expression my father has always said. I don't understand this. We understand it. We just can't believe it. And each day it seems to get more and more further from maybe the way I think things should operate, with more kindness and empathy and collaboration, and less all about me and only my way or the highway and all of that, because I've never been that way. So long way around that question, but the answer is yes.
Well, you are not alone. There are a recent poll says that 41% of Americans think the apocalypse has started or soon will.
I hear the apocalypse. I hear the coming of the Lord. I hear the end of the earth. I hear the end of mankind. I hear that everything is flipping, the currency is changing, the way life's going to be operating, what is important, what's not important is all flipping. Sources of control that'll be dictating are changing. It's fascinating, all of these things that are happening at once, and the amount of things that have happened. I mean, it's always happened. Things have always happened. I mean, it's even with weather, there's cycles and there's all these things that have always happened. But it does seem, and I've had this conversation with a few people, since 9/11 happened, things have gotten edgier, darker, more cynical since that pivotal moment of 9/11 and the changing of the century to this new century. Has brought on a lot of different thought processes, challenges, some wonderful things that have happened as well, positive movement, positive change. But a lot of things have been either exposed or people have just acted in certain ways that have been really interesting to psychologically deduce. And then all of these events that have happened concurrent, it's as if you finally think you've dusted yourself off and caught your breath from the last major thing that has happened, and boom, before you're finishing sweeping up that, here's the next thing that's right there that you have to deal with globally, nationally, regionally, locally, individually, whatever it is. And it seems that way. You just turn on, the coverage of anything, and it's as if what happens today is topping what happened yesterday. And boy, who knows about tomorrow? It seems like we're in apocalyptic times right now.
Well, it does seem like that, doesn't it? It seems like that to a lot of people. So the story is about that. It starts in a very contemporary fashion in New York City with a young handicapped man who has everything against him. A true antihero. And he wants to change the world for the better. He wants to get rid of the predators. He wants to bring people together. He wants people to be kind instead of harsh. And so the story of the Apocalypse Game really asks the reader inevitably will have to question the value systems of selfishness versus selflessness. But yet it's a thriller. It is a page-turning thriller with science, science gone bad and government gone wrong, and much of what we see in contemporary society taking the next step, and the next plague, the next war, and what happens if supernatural evil has a role in that? What happens if supernatural evil tries to influence that process? That's really the guts of the book series.
How do you define, from your perspective, supernatural evil? Are there elements of it that are already in our existence that we deal with day to day? We're just not aware of that's what it is. Maybe it has different window dressing. It has a different, appearance, but underneath it's that already.
I think so. I do believe that, and I think that supernatural evil is active in our world today, and you can see it in so many ways. What we all understood 2 decades ago to be good, people being kind and selfless and sacrificing themselves and giving to others, is oftentimes vilified as evil now, and oftentimes in today's world, self-destructive behaviors, that take away people's dignity, is lauded as good.
Absolutely, 150%. We've said that often, even in family and friend discussions and discussions with colleagues, and we've seen it. It seems as though that the more negative, the more outlandish, the more outrageous something is, the more criminal, hurtful, destructive it is, the more it's celebrated. That's the cool thing to do. That's the hip thing to do. That's the way to really be. Forget about all the sweet stuff. Forget about anything Pollyanna or anything that harkens back to whatever time you want to pick. There's no time for that. That's a waste of time. It's got to be something cutting edge, raw, in your face, and 24/7. And I don't think that as humans, we're built for that. I don't think the earth spins smoothly when it's constantly in your face, constantly raw, and constantly 24/7. You can't get a breath. You can't process anything. You can't relish in anything. You can't savor anything, because you got to be doing the next thing, and you got to be topping the last thing you did, the last thing you said, beating everybody, getting first in line or whatever it is. Cutting the guy off on the highway so you can get to the red light faster. I mean, it's total nonsense, a lot of it. And it irks me on many levels because it's just not the way, I think any sort of society globally or anywhere really operates smoothly. But, sometimes you do feel like you're paddling a canoe in an opposite direction of where things are headed.
Yeah, it certainly feels like that today, doesn't it? So the protagonist in this book series is a very good-hearted soul that wants everybody to get along, wants the predators to be out of the world, or at least to be kind. And he suffered a lot of abuse and a lot of mocking because he's being mocked because he's so handicapped. And so he has these fantastic intentions, But as it says, even in the book blurb on Amazon, there's a demonic haunt that's trying to steer him, and he has a fantastic ally and an artificial intelligence friend that enables his every vengeful fantasy. So, you take this kind of situation where we are today, which we're all well aware of, where our society is fairly broken, and a lot of it, I think, is the media. I mean, look at the mass shooters, for example. Why are there so many mass shooters today? One aspect, which you
every day
frequently
now.
people talk about, right, is that they get a lot of press. But what is the other element I never see talked about is that these are mentally unstable people to begin with. And they're fed, whether you look at MSNBC or Fox or CNN or whoever, they're fed this as you said, this 24/7 vibe of division. That there's the bad people and there's the good people, and those people are the bad people and these people are the good people, and they're fed this, and it's like a drum in their head. And
And then you
ultimately
have the music, some of the lyrics in the music. You got the violent video
yes,
games, the movies where everything is exploding, and flash, and that's about it. Nothing that really takes time to ferment like good wine. It's all boom, and that's it. And they're exposed to that 24/7, as opposed to, I mean, you could drive through any neighborhood and rarely see kids outside playing now. They're
right.
in, they're constant 24/7, and the food gets slid under the door and they eat up in the room. There's the sitting at the table and eating. Where's that gone? So it's just like all of these things coming at them at the same time. It's like a pressure cooker, I'm sure, on many different levels, as we see when you turn on news and how people are responding to things and how they're reacting to things. It's a tough time.
Right, and I'm sure you do. I know you do. Just talking to you briefly, but so what happens next? What happens in a society that's like that? And what happens when there's an artificial intelligence that understands everything and understands, our weaknesses? And what happens if either whether it's human, natural evil, a bad person, or whether it's supernatural evil, what happens when that comes in combination with the ultimate power of an AI?
How
And
do you
all of that,
feel about all of that yourself, even personally? The advancements and the development in AI, and really used in such a phenomenal way for the good of progress and healthcare and all these other elements, technology. How do you feel about it from your perspective? Does it make you nervous? Are you worried? Do you feel that you know humans are going to be dominated by AI and dominated by computers and technology at some point? We'll all have chips in our heads, and that'll be that. Is that something that
uh,
concerns you?
it does a lot. I mean, literally, it keeps me up at night,
It does.
and this
Yeah.
book series is about that. But there are two. Elon Musk talks about artificial intelligence and the risk of artificial intelligence, and he's right. I agree with him. But there's a second technology that, to me, is ultimately just as dangerous, and that is synthetic biology.
Define that for us, for the audience.
Synthetic biology is the creating of new life, and we've already done that, and it's completely off the radar unless you're a scientist. I mean, for 20 years, we've made dogs that glow in the dark. We've made a variety. Now we're doing chimeras of humans and pigs, and so this we see in news articles that say, well, we've engineered pigs in Europe, here, and in China, so that their organs will grow like humans,
Mm.
so that we can transplant hearts and
Hmm.
other things. Well, it sounds fine, but we've made the brain as an organ. So
Yeah.
we've made these pigs have brains, and pigs are already well known to be very intelligent. They now have human-like brains.
Yes. Right.
What is the
Right.
consequence of that?
Yeah.
What is the consequence of these pigs that are even more intelligent, and they're being used as fodder? But what is the moral consequence of that? And who's asking those questions? But synthetic biology, for example, the COVID virus is widely viewed as synthetic, despite some of the propaganda. And so, but certainly, without a doubt, whatever you believe about the COVID virus, the vaccine, the mRNA vaccine, is synthetic biology. We assemble a genetic code. Synthetic biology is literally assembling the atoms to make the actual DNA and inserting it into making a living creature. Or in the case of mRNA vaccine, inserting it into our bodies. What happens when they've already made bacteria that from scratch? They've made the entire bacteria's DNA, and it's now replicating in labs. What happens when these things escape? So synthetic biology, I think, is a huge threat, and this book series addresses artificial intelligence, another huge threat, and synthetic biology. I think both are equal threats. Both could destroy humanity in short order, and they need some regulation. And the problem is, in the Western world, we have a lot of regulation, and it's fairly robust. In other parts of the world, China, for example, they don't. China's a one man rules, and the law is what that one man wants. So in those countries, Iran and other places, synthetic biology has become a poor man's lab. Artificial intelligence takes vast resources, Google-like resources, or China or the United States government. For synthetic biology, you can do it in small labs. So what happens when a bacteria or a virus or an animal comes out of a lab and decimates the world?
Did you think about these things when you were a kid? I know you talked about some of the things that inspired you as a kid, but were you thinking about fantastical situations? Were you sort of an old soul? Were you sort of ahead of your time in a way, maybe in the way you were thinking about these things as a kid, as opposed to just, laying on the floor playing with the Matchbox cars? Were you thinking deeper and creating scenarios in your mind as well, which is fascinating? I mean, that's how some of these extraordinary movies are made, and book series like yours are written, and documentaries are done, is early on from some of those early inspirations. Were you always ahead of the game, you think, in that thinking as a kid?
Always. Like you heard those consistent themes in your youth. I heard the same themes in my, all the way from when I finally settled in Oklahoma in high school and college and onwards, that my scale, what I was reading, I was constantly reading. Because I wasn't good with people, I was constantly learning. And I assimilated that into, thoughts. So people were always telling me, you're strategic, you see things, you're visionary, you see things we don't see. You should be president, you should be this or that. Of course, president, definitely not for me. But what I want to do is tell a story that causes people to think, that really, a story that lingers, that catches your mind and your soul and heart, and really causes a person to think while being thrilled. I mean, the books are meant to be big screen, big CGI budget, thrillers. Because I want everybody to see it. I want everybody, including, even though it has, like you, I love that you're making this your program more like some of the old programs that are conversational and relaxed. And God, doesn't our world need some of that? So what I'm trying to do is feed some of Christian themes, but gently, into the story, which are really themes about being selfless, into a story that the protagonist is the most intelligent human who's ever lived, and a devout atheist. But he is surrounded by both good and bad force, influences, like as we all are. And I want every reader, whether secular or believer or other, to be able to experience that journey.
That's fantastic. So, who were some of the folks that inspired you? I mentioned some names. I mentioned George Lucas, Rod Serling, Spielberg, Stephen King, some others. But who are folks that inspired you coming up, when either you were a kid or even just through the years? Are there certain people's work that you've always admired and that have inspired you along the way, DC?
Absolutely. Some of the classics. I mean, probably my number one is Tolkien's, of course, Lord of the Rings. I mean, it is boundless in its talent and creativity. But also Stephen King's The Stand, which is supernatural evil, its effect on nuclear war and the end of society as we know it, but the beginning of a new society. My book series is not about the end of the world. It's about the end of this civilization, and hopefully the start of something else. And then there's another author, McCammon. It's not as well known. Swan Song, another story where supernatural evil plays into apocalyptic events, with some hope at the end. So those kind of books, the few good trying to survive enormous odds against tremendous evil, and hopefully finding a ray of light at the end.
Now, what was the writing process like for you? I'm sure it was pretty intense. Was it, especially with the first book? And congratulations, because this is, an ongoing series now. You have the second book coming out in September. The inspiration is coming, really pouring out of you now, which is really fantastic, as well as the content. What was the writing process like? How'd you get started? How'd you know where to begin to tell the story? How'd you format that?
Oh my God. So I saw that you are a writer, so you will laugh at me, and you rightly should. Everybody should, but I had no concept of a thing called grammar. And so I actually started out.
There is that
really
Grammarly app now.
and his competitor.
Sometimes when I write, I put too many commas because
Yes.
I write sometimes like I'm speaking. So when I write emails or
Yes.
texting or whatever, I write actually as if I'm speaking to you. So sometimes if I'm pausing, like I will do a pause when I'm speaking, I'll throw in an extra comma that maybe doesn't always need to be there or maybe shouldn't be there. But for me, it seems fine.
Well, that's what I did. So my first versions of the book were not even as good as that, but train of thought, concepts. And these are things I worked on for years. And it's shocking when I go back and look at them, just how really terrible they are. But you get better, So my advice to any writer: keep writing, read the masters, find what you like, figure it out, and you will get there. And that's why I said, I think it was maybe 3 years ago, we had moved into our house and I'd gotten married, and it finally clicked how to write. I mean, fiction how to tell a story, which is a lot about building intrigue, building curiosity. I'd always wonder, well, what makes a reader, because I love those books, the book that makes you read it all night. All right. You just cannot put it down. You got one light on in the bed, you're laying in the bed, and you just keep reading because you can't stop. And I'd ask myself over and over, what in the world causes that? And I finally realized it's curiosity, it's intrigue. You've got to have an empathetic character, and you got to capture the reader's heart, and then it's intrigue and mystery and tension. And so once I figured that out, I literally went on. You asked how I write. I spent 2.5, 3 years, probably 6.5 days a week. I'd get up at 2 in the night with a bunch of ideas and write until 6 a.m. and sleep till 9 and write again. I wrote like a madman for 3 years, 500,000 words in 4 books. And so now I'm really just refining those. And that's not the end of the story. The story is about 10 books. But the first 4 I wrote in just this mad kind of ecstasy of writing, and now it's beginning to come out, which is thrilling. I mean, for me to hear someone say how they loved it is almost leaves me speechless. I can't put it into words.
Melissa Barnes is here. She says, "Good job, DC. This book is a smooth read." Thanks for joining us on the Jim Masters Show live. Good to have you with us, Melissa Barnes. We appreciate you being here and hope you'll be with us regularly. You're now a JMS Lovety. When you watch our show, you're a Lovety, which we love. So we have the first book, right? And for those who will be now discovering the first book, because the second one is coming out in September, King of Manhattan, which sounds really exciting. We'll talk about that one in just a second. But first, tell us more about this. Would you have the book there? Is there anything you want to share or maybe pull from the book or read from the book? What can people expect? We don't want to give it all away, but what can people expect if they pick up a copy of the very first in this epic series of the Apocalypse Game, this particular book?
Well, I could read a few paragraphs, if that would be okay.
Yes, we love that. Yeah, I love when an author does that.
Great. So the protagonist is a young man, and his name is Jonas, and he is severely handicapped, birth defects, but the most brilliant human ever in a motorized wheelchair. And kind of at the point in the book where many things have gone wrong, his dreams are dashed. Chapter 16. I haven't slept a wink all night while icy rain has dripped off my glasses and eyelashes. The world reeks of wet iron. The sky to the east lightens. Soaked to the bone, I stopped shivering hours ago, and now I'm sleepy, drugged. I need to find a hole to hide in, dry and far enough away so that they can't find me. Fred, too. His box is disintegrating, just like we all do one day. I'm an adult and independent. The thought makes me cackle, laughter building, rising from my twisted foot, up the withered leg, and passing by my confused stuff before washing over my chicken wing arm. Happy birthday, JG. No surprise my mother didn't call back, and I guess she won't. They will track my phone when they find I'm not waiting for them at school at 10 a.m., so I turn it off. No power, no tracking. I extract my hand from Orpheus's, the ancient priest. He shivers in his sleep as though palsied and doesn't appear scary anymore. A drooling, wrinkled baby wearing a white Rastafarian wig with his chin on his chest. I don't understand why he stayed with me all night. He is too old for this. Should I wake him? But I want no more of his religion babble either. A man walks by us, but he doesn't look, as though he sees this every day. People make no eye contact unless they hunt.
I like that. Like
they're in Harlem, and it's a very a lot of the sets and scenes in the story are, there is a wonderful STEM school in Harlem. It's gray stone and Gothic finials and gargoyles, and so it's set there. There's scenes in Trinity Cemetery. There's scenes in St. Patrick's Church. It's foggy. It's gloomy. It's dark, as this young man tries to find his way to a better life. So that's basically, in a nutshell, the sets and scenes.
Is any of you in the lead character? Elements of you, the good guy, the wanting things to be, better than they are. Is any of that based on some of your own personal way of being, DC? I'm getting a sense that part of that character has you in it.
Yeah, I think certainly, without a doubt. Yeah, as his he wants a better world. He's had a really tough life, and he wants a better world, and he's willing to sacrifice everything to get it. And I think that has definitely been my life.
Yeah, you mentioned that early on, that you've gone through a lot of different things in your life, and it's giving you, I think, a deep and unique perspective of life in a way that I think is, do you ever feel like I know sometimes I say that I do, or people have said, sometimes I feel like I have a third eye. Do you feel like you've got a third eye?
Do I feel like I have a third eye?
That's a really, really good question. Yeah.
I see things objectively in the world that oftentimes others don't see. But I think you are an empath. I mean, you have these great interpersonal skills. Whereas with Asperger's syndrome, I was really the opposite for most of my life. I could not read people at all, whether they were good or bad. And so I just assumed everything was going to be bad. And often, sometimes it was. But, so for me, it's been really an acquired skill set to have interpersonal skills and to have a conversation like we are having today.
You had to have a confidence and sort of like a safe zone that is important. You know what I mean? I know in a lot of the interviewing I've done over the years, that's one of the first things that, even if the person doesn't request it, ask for it, say they need it, I always try to create that warm, welcoming, non-judgmental, non-threatening zone, regardless of what the topic is. And it could be really a heady topic, because I think it allows the person on the other end to be more real and authentic and funnier and maybe more inspiring and more comfortable to want to emote and share. And I think as a result of that, we all benefit. I do as the, sort of conducting the train as the host. You do as far as messages and thoughts and ideas and passion you want to express. And then for those who are the passengers on the train with us, who are watching and soaking up what we're talking about, also sort of grabbing little nuggets because it's a comfortable environment. So I appreciate your noticing that, to where you're sharing in the way that you're doing quite deeply, which I think is fantastic.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It was a question I did not expect. It's actually interesting. One of the funny scenes, well, I don't know if it's funny or not, probably not. But one of the scenes very early in the book, in the prologue, is young Jonas is in first grade, and he's at recess. He goes into the library because in there he can breathe.
Yeah, right.
And because he's afraid of the other children so that was, I remember somebody read that and said he reads in the library. He reads the Britannica, the Encyclopedia Britannica. That's what he does.
I used to love the encyclopedia. I
Right.
had a whole set as a kid, and I used to pull it off the shelf and just dig in every once in a while. I miss those. It's the tactile nature of it too, flipping the pages and looking at the maps and the photos and just really, just soaking in for a couple of hours,
So one of the beta readers read that and said, "Oh, first grader is going to go in a library and read the encyclopedia." And I said, "That was me. That was me." Because I was afraid of the other children. I was afraid how to interact with other children. I did that for first.
You were probably really good at trivia games. You knew the answers. Well, back in 1800, let me tell you what really happened.
Yeah, God forbid there's science, and I nailed those. God forbid it was something about media and movie stars, because I knew nothing.
Oh, the entertainment celebrity world. Yeah.
Yes. My mother never let us watch TV at all, so I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, you're right. So in place of watching television, what did you do? Did you read? Did you have hobbies? Did you study an instrument, play sports? What was the alternative to television?
I read everything I get my hands on. I think in ninth grade, my mother was, God bless her, was ordering in textbooks from universities. I taught myself Russian. I designed a helicopter, the mechanics. I had to learn. I had to create and learn.
Could you listen to the radio at all? Like an AM transistor or anything?
I did not have access to one. No, only when my dad drove in the car.
So when you reached a certain age, sometimes when a kid reaches a certain age, they then dip their feet into the things that they weren't allowed to do, or just they didn't have access to. Did you start to then do it? Did you start listening to radio and television and branching out and exploring some of those areas?
Well, yes. The music I grew up with growing up, because we had no access to any of it. My mother and father had a number of, these are vinyl LPs. So I was listening to 1950s, Elvis.
Yeah.
And, and Patty Klein, and, because that's what I had. But it was suddenly I was able to afford a used car, and 8-track. So suddenly there was Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and, Foreigner and wonderful things, and my aperture widened.
Yeah. So broaden the horizons a bit there. I mentioned the second book as well, DC, and congratulations on it. You and I were just chatting. This is book one, everybody. This is the beginning of the series. It's available now. but the second one's coming out in September. Tell us about the second one. We can sort of give it a preview tease, coming out in September of this year. And now if you're watching this, 3 years from now, folks, you can get the book. But for those watching live, I always make that distinction. For those who watch us live, which is a lot of people, King of Manhattan. Tell us about this one, and there were fabulous covers to these books as well, the designs.
Well, thank you. So King of Manhattan is, he's gone from the lowest, he is the truest antihero, just barely making it in Harlem, abused by foster parents, and just really having a terrible time in life and fearful. He lives in fear. But yet, with the help of his demonic haunt, he modified his AI assistant. Think of a Siri or Alexa today, but a few years from now.
Do you have any of those in your house?
I have Siri in my house. Yes,
you do. Really?
I do. Yeah.
Does it make you uneasy?
It makes my wife terribly uneasy. So she will not let her devices listen in on her.
You'd be surprised. I don't have either.
I think it's probably one. That's certainly.
I don't have either. Yeah, I don't have either. I don't know why. I think it's. I want to. I don't know if I want the answer as quickly. I want to go research it. Like you said, you would go to the library, and I want to go dig it out and find it and read a little bit more about it, I think, or Google it or whatever it is. I just, maybe it's also the constant monitoring. There's something that's there that's possibly listening to everything.
Well, it is.
And being a public figure too, you don't want everything broadcast.
Well, they literally listen to everything. We have iPads over the house, iPhones over the house. We have Apple TVs over the house. They're all listening to everything you say and do.
Yeah, right. If Alexa or Siri's in the room and I happen to accidentally burp and it records that and then it posts it viral. Wow. Gee, thanks. Wow, could you believe that? Oh no. We're going to have to reevaluate that project we were going to do with him.
Yes.
It's funny.
Yeah. It's sobering where it's all going. And really this story is about kind of the very next step in that. And none of it is far removed from where technology is today. It's just one step forward.
Yeah. The design of the covers too. Tell us about the design of the covers.
I had a wonderful firm in Seattle do that. And I sent them, my thoughts on it, but they did wonderful work. And so that is Jonas's golden tower at the southern tip of Manhattan, with kind of a, dark ambiance of, what happens in the world. And, Hela is, of course, Hela lives in the cloud.
Yeah.
But she doesn't want to stay there. So that arm is kind of symbolic of her ambitions.
Very fascinated by
Hela is his. I should say that Hela is his AI companion, who, because of what happens in book 1, becomes a vast.
I find it fascinating, the names that you've selected: Jonas, Hela. Tell us about that. There seems to be some, deeper reasons why those kinds of names were selected, because they're ideal.
Oh, thank you. Well, and his wholly unattainable love interest is Sara, and she goes to the same STEM school as he does, but she is from Greenwich Village, from a wealthy family. She's a piano prodigy. She's producing albums of her piano material, whereas he is a terribly handicapped young man in thick glasses in a motorized wheelchair. But he loves her with all his heart, and he will do anything to get her, which is a driving motivation in the entire story. So in the end, he is by book 2. I won't give anything away on what happens with Sara and Jonas, but the names are, in a sense, biblical.
Yes,
the book series starts out with.
Initially, that's what I felt, that there was a biblical connection.
The book series starts out with, if I could read that.
Yes, absolutely.
Before the prologue even begins, book 1. There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and on earth distress among nations, confused by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will faint from fear and foreboding of what is coming upon the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Luke 21:25. So the many of the names are old names from the Bible, because of it is a thrilling, somewhat fanciful view of the Book of Revelations rolling out.
Mm. Mm. That's cool how you've weaved that in a gingerly way. What's the overall message? I was going to say theme, but that's not the right word. Is there an overall message that you hope readers are left with? Is it that we should pause and breathe a little bit more and be more kinder and empathetic and collaborative and stop and some of those things I say we don't seem to have time to do anymore? Process, appreciate, savor, relish in, revel in, but also just remind ourselves of the simple things in life, the things that really matter most. Is there an overall, are some of those things, including anything else that you're thinking of, an overall message in this series?
Yes, absolutely. So the series is, it's a techno thriller, if I were to use literary terms, with supernatural elements, and it's thrilling. I mean, as it evolves, it builds towards great battles between good and evil.
So sci-fi fans and others, thriller fans would love this too. Yeah.
They're going to love it. They're going to love it. But yeah, there's an underlying, gently done theme that is designed not to prescribe answers, but to have the reader ask themselves questions about value systems, particularly about what if government is too powerful? What is the effect on society and individuals of concentrated messages from social media? The control of social media over messaging.
Mm-hmm.
What is the effect of artificial intelligence, a vast artificial intelligence that literally knows everything on computers? What would be the effect of such a thing? What's the effect of science that can build new animals? Because we have that already. What happens when that's the next step and it's more complex animals? So these questions all come into play, and I don't prescribe answers. I beg them to ask. I beg the questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And
Exactly.
with the full intention of thrilling them every single page.
Yeah. Absolutely. Riveting and eye-opening, and let's just stop and pause and question, which I think is fascinating when you get a chance to be able to do that as a writer. A couple of folks were asking too, and I was thinking, when you write, are you writing as you're thinking about the ideas, or are you formatting all of this out? Do you have it really blocked out, formatted? Everything is sort of, does the engineer in you come out and everything is really done in a tight wound way? Or do you let it flow, and as it's flowing, you're writing it and you're capturing it? And if it goes in a different direction or it takes you down a different road that you didn't expect, you just follow that inspiration that's coming through you at that time. How do you address or proceed with your writing process, and how did you do it with these books?
That's a great question. I don't know about you, but I don't sleep that well at this age, so I oftentimes wake up from 2 to 5 or 2 to 3 or 2 to 4.
You make a
And
sandwich?
I don't make a sandwich. I focus on my story. I focus on threads. I fall into it because what else are you going to do? I mean,
Yeah.
what else are you going to do? You could go make a sandwich, go for a walk. I
Right.
fall into the story, and I follow threads and characters, and And my tool, my one tool that I use on this is the notes function on my phone.
Mm,
So I have no other notes. I have no other binders. I
right.
don't structure and scheme and make all these scenes. And I just have a notion where I'm going, and I let the characters drive it. And the characters
Mm,
surprise me often. I have a very big notion of where the story is going, but the characters, what they say and do, if you're true to the character, drives the story. And it surprises me how much it drives the story. So to answer your question, no, I don't do. Some authors I know, do binders and binders of planning and laying it all out. I don't do any of that. I just let it roll. I let it rip.
you
Yeah,
let it rip, which
from
is
my
great.
heart.
Yeah,
And
right,
in the middle of the
exactly.
night, when it comes to me that something needs to change, I get out of bed and I go right until it's changed.
Well, a friend of mine was like that. He's since no longer with us, but he was a writer and prolific writer, but also an inventor. I mean, he was always in his basement. He had all of these inventions, none of which were finished. They were all about 94%, 95% there, and then somehow either he got distracted or he got bored or something pulled him away, or he did doubt himself. He was very perfectionistic. He did fear rejection, so maybe if he launched any of these inventions, he thought if it sunk, or they didn't respond to it in the way that he hoped they did with the passion he had for creating and thinking up the idea and creating it, he never really brought any of them to bear. And some really brilliant, incredible things that make life easier and more pleasurable. And I remember we had a conversation, one of those great conversations you have with a friend that you're not even looking at the clock. It goes to like 5 a.m. and you're talking about everything. You're almost finishing each other's sentences and you're just talking about life and this and that. And, oh, you too. And, there's really good connecting, let it rip conversations with nothing scripted, nothing, no agenda, just two good friends shooting the breeze about life and what it's all about. And he had said to me once that he would wake up 2 o'clock in the morning with this burn of inspiration, and he'd go right to his typewriter at the time. He'd go right to the typewriter and just put a piece of paper in and start typing away. Whatever he was getting from sleep, from the dream, or just whatever this energy is. And he worked best when his house, because, with the family, his parents and his sister and everything, we were in our early 20s. He worked best at night when the house was quiet, when the phone wasn't ringing, when there weren't any other responsibilities to tend to or to have to respond to. And that's when he was at his best, was in the late night, 2 a.m. Everybody's asleep. The world is closed. There's nothing going on. He doesn't have to be a hero. And he goes right to his typewriter or computer and starts letting the energy flow through. Has that happened for you? He said night for him was always the best time, the most creative time for him. He needed everything else to stop and everything else because his mind would race. And so he needed everything else to quiet so that he can really super focus on brilliant things that he would write. Again, screenplays, things of that nature that he would put in the drawer and then wouldn't sell or market or promote. And like 2 years later, a very similar movie or idea comes out on stage or on TV or in the movies. Very, very close to what he thought up years ago. But he just didn't have that extra to get it out there to, he feared the rejection. But he did say the nighttime was best for him. How about you?
I would say so. I would have never thought so. I've been a sleep person my whole life, and a sleep in person. But what's changed in this writing adventure is that it did change for me. That energy. I tend to wake up, and when I have things on my mind, which in writing the story is always, it didn't used to
Yeah.
be that way. But I almost always wake up around 3. Interestingly, the witching hour. 3:15 a.m. And I'll lay there and just go through the book. And oftentimes I'll pray. If I have a problem with the book, I don't like the start, I don't like this character, I don't like what's going on, I don't, blah, 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 a million questions. I pray about it. And honestly, the whole answer comes fully formed every single time. It's really strange. So it's either an Asperger's syndrome, odd brain function, or it's something more supernatural. But either way, it's been really wonderful for me. So when that happens, I pop out of bed and I go in the library and I write. And I'll write until it's first draft is out, completely out. And if it's oftentimes you have a notion of, well, something about this character, I didn't like this character, something's not right, it's not interesting enough. And it changes. Well, now you've got to go through the whole book front to back. And since I wrote 4 books, you got to go through and you got to change that character all the way throughout. And once I've got, I'm like a dog with a bone. Once I've got that thing in my mouth, I don't stop until that whole change is made. And that's
how do you know when you're satisfied with it? How do you know when you could say I'm good, I'm comfortable with it, I'm done, no more adding to it? I mean, in this case, you've got a series, which is a good thing, but how do you know when DC is satisfied enough to say, that's the final page, that's the final sentence, that's the final word, that's the final period?
That's a great question. The thing is, my wife asks me that all the time, because she has many times, and she's my greatest supporter, but she has many times said, aren't you done with this thing yet? Isn't it ready to publish? She's read it so many times. She's she's been
living the process with you. Yeah.
She lives it. We take these long beach walks and 5-mile beach walks. And, we talk about many things, but always my mind reverts to the book, and I'm talking about characters or scenes or this or that and bouncing it off of her, and she's oftentimes said, this book is ready to publish. I said, no, it's not. She said, how do you know? I said, when I read every scene, every scene is like a strand of pearls, and one novel might be 100 or 200 pearls, where one scene leads to the next scene. And each scene has to transition just right. And I said, well, when each scene, when I read it and it rings like a bell, when I hear the tone, it rings like a bell, then I know the scene's done. And so finally, I have to read the whole book, for the God ad infinitum time. I've probably read book 1, 30 times. Written at 12 and read it. So you've got to go through.
Did you give it to other people to read too before you were done?
I use both friendly beta readers and professional beta readers.
Right.
So it is, and professional editors. So it is, and so it's such a minor thing, but it's not a minor thing. But so far, maybe some of your audience will find that, and please send it to me on my website if you find it. There's been not a single grammatical error that anybody has found so far. So I can tell you, out of 87,
sure you want them to look?
I do, actually. Send it to me on email, because I tell you, I worked really hard to find and make those 87,000 words perfect.
87,000 words, yeah. Yes. Are you a perfectionist?
I guess I am. I have to admit it.
Any OCD in there at all?
What's that?
Any OCD in there? Obsessing about it at all, or?
Oh God, I definitely obsess about this story. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
because I feel like I'm really trying to tell a story for our age.
Yes,
for this century, as to what happens next and what the consequences of what. I'm trying to tell a story that just sucks everybody in, secular and believer alike, because it's just so darn fun.
Have you
challenge people?
Did you apply a heavy burden on yourself? Did you, meaning you care about it so much, you care about the project, the work, the message, what you hope people get from it, this monumental nature, because it really ties in beautifully to our times now and to future and past and all of it, how it ties and weaves together. Did you self-impose a heavy weight? I say that because sometimes there's projects and things I've done where I'm telling a story or telling somebody else's story, and wanting to really get it right. And I really hope that people feel, which is one of the hardest things to create, is for, you can spit out a lot of facts about things, but to be able to master, pun intended, last name, masters, to be able to sort of just naturally and effortlessly master the art of being able to get people to feel something, feel what you hope they will feel, doesn't always come easy. And sometimes it is that rewriting or taking a second look or having other eyes and ears, go over it, or just letting it rip and putting it out there and see where it lands. A lot of people just say, this is my thing. I'm going to throw it out there and see where it lands. But to be able to do it in a way where you actually get people to feel what you're feeling. And I use this analogy, kind of like when we're all in the movie theater and we're watching that Titanic sink. The producers of the movie mastered the feeling that we all felt at that time watching that movie in a movie theater. And it's a very, very communal experience. And one of my favorite things on the planet, next to mashed potatoes, is communal experiences where we're all feeling it. That's why one of my favorite days is Christmas Day. There's just something about the day where there's so much, music and food and love and family and gifts and color and lights and sound and God and everything you could every sense that you could possibly tap into is tapped into and heightened. And it's phenomenal. Or at least it's always been for me, because we were raised in that atmosphere where very big day, an important day, special day, fun day, light day, deep day, all those things. So, it's always been like a monumental thing for me. I always hated the day after because everybody goes back to the routine. But just to be able to capture, I use these things as analogies for capturing the feeling. So a long way of asking, did you place weight on you when doing it? You wanted it to be right, and you wanted it not to be released until you felt people were hopefully going to get the essence, feeling wise, of what it was. Because this is a very, the message in the book is something, as much as it's fun and sci-fi and thriller and all these other cool things. There's, a thought process in there that is reality based in many ways. So did you put that weight on yourself? Were you, up nights? Like, I really hope people get what I'm trying to present here.
Yes. I think obsessive would be the right word.
That was a long question for a yes.
Yes. My wife, she wanted to publish this a couple of years ago, and I said, it's just, the bell's not ringing on the whole thing. And for me, it was, I buy a lot of books. I read a lot of books, particularly in my genre, science fiction. I'm not the fantasy of other worlds and swords and fairies and magic and all that stuff. But
did you like Twilight Zone?
I did read that. I did like it.
Did you see the TV series? I know as a kid you didn't, but have you seen it since?
No. I like the romantic element to that.
The Twilight Zone. Yeah.
Oh, no, you mean the old.
Rod Serling, the black and white.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I saw some of that back in the day. Oh, I love it.
Oh, I think you're thinking of the Twilight, the saga, the later.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I was thinking of. Yes.
Yeah, no, the Twilight Zone with Rod Serling.
Oh, God. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Huh?
Yeah, that would be a good, put that soundtrack to the intro to this movie, the Apocalypse Game. That might be good.
Yes. What a mind he had, huh?
Yes.
Fantastic. What a mind, because it was so much about how we think about the world and how we treat each other and the things we say and do. And it's really fascinating.
But to your question, about the books, I read tremendous numbers of books. Well, I buy tremendous numbers of books. And oftentimes I stop 1/3 or 2/3 through them. I don't know if you do that. I know many people are stubborn readers and they're going to finish that darn book. But for me, if the characters aren't gripping or the plot's not, I set it aside and I never go
Yeah.
back. And
My
it's
mother's
so,
one that sticks with it. She can read, I've been around her where she has these books and she can go through like 6 books in a day, if not more. How are you? And she's immersed in it and she can repeat what was happening. Um, Gets really in it and will stick with it till finish. I'm similar to you as far as I'll I'll take a pause and then maybe go back to it. Um, you think you need more stimulation? Is that what it is? You think
I just think I need to have my heart gripped
yeah,
and taken
yeah.
on a journey,
You
and
got to
if the
feel it.
journey falters, either the tension fails or
You're just not feeling it.
I lose interest in the character, then the journey's over. And I had one of my professional editors used to be a chief editor at one of the big publishing companies in Manhattan. He's retired now, and he said I edit a lot of books, and typically the last third, at the climax, and after that, the resolution, they fail. They wither away, and you don't want to read it anymore. You don't want to finish it. He said yours is the best last third I've seen in a decade. He said it grabs you, shakes you, twists you, and leaves you wanting more. And I think I even used some of those words in some of the advertising. But it was and so for me, I rewrote that story, rewrote the story, and rewrote the story because I could not leave my reader being less than gripped to
Yeah, I know what you mean.
the
Yeah,
last word.
yeah.
It would have been I would be so disappointed as the author.
I'm exactly that way. I think that in a lot of things I do, even in my professional work, even with this show, this series, the Jim Masters show, and other things I've done, other documentaries I've done professionally and video work. Some have won awards as a result, but I really want people to feel. I want them to be left with a feeling, whatever the feeling is. Hopefully it's a positive feeling, but I don't want it to just be transactional. I'm not necessarily the most just transactional type person where everything is just a quick transaction. I think there's a reason for everything, and there's some feeling involved, and especially if you're in these kinds of things. Not everything 24/7, of course. I mean, if you're going to go to the gas station and you're going to put gas in your car, that's transactional. And frustrating with the prices to what they are now. So there is emotion. You do feel it at the pump. but that's much more of a transactional thing. I'm talking about things where you're creating something. You're creating art. You're creating music. You're writing. You're telling a story, and you're a storyteller. And that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? It's a wonderful thing to be a storyteller because you can weave so many different stories that positively impact people's lives. When people pick up a book or they listen to a piece of music or they watch a nostalgic TV show or a movie or they look at art on the wall in a museum or they go and they walk through a garden with all these beautiful blooming flowers, like a rose garden or something, we all get different things from it. We get a universal thing from it, but then we also get something unique to ourselves. It's like so many times people will read a book, listen to a piece of music, or look at art on the wall, and what the creator intended, the person who wrote the book, created the music, whatever, the recipient of it will receive all these other things from it because they'll make it their own. They'll tie their own life's experiences to it. And then they'll write somebody like you a letter, or they'll write somebody that wrote a piece of music a letter and say, here's what I got. It reminds me of the time when I this, or it makes me think wonderful feelings about that. I would imagine, you must get some of that sometimes from people too, when they read material that you've penned. Everybody approaches it from different periods in their life and different perspectives.
You're right. I've gotten emails from, and it's so much fun getting emails from readers, I've gotten emails from readers that have said things like, it's a dark and gritty book, a book that would not normally be something I would enjoy, but I could not put it down. I only put it down to go to the bathroom or sleep. I've had other people write about how it took their heart on a journey and how they saw elements of themselves in the protagonist. Even though he's having to make some really difficult decisions, I saw myself in that. And I saw myself having to make that dark decision. So when you can actually touch a person's heart, a reader's heart, and take them on a journey, ultimately towards the light, but it might be a dark journey, as much of life can be to get to where we need to be.
Yeah.
It's thrilling to hear from them that they, when you touch their heart, it's just magnificent.
Yeah. Spot on. When you finished the first book, when it was done and published and out there as it is now, what was that feeling like for you? That had to have been an overwhelming feeling, because that's the first one. That's the baby. That's the gold standard, the one that sets the tone for the rest, and especially with it being a series, even though there's different nuances in the others. What was that like for you?
I'll tell you the brutal truth. The first feeling was, thank God I'll never read that again. Because I've read it 30 or 40 times.
30 times. I'm done with that one.
But now, it's been just a few months. And so as I was kind of getting ready for this show, and I was kind of looking through scenes, and I tell you, it's marvelous. What's kind of marvelous is that I look at it, my writing evolved from writing that I look at now, and I wince.
Mm-hmm.
Now I read it and I say, did I really write that?
You see the evolution.
I see it, and it's crisp and nice and clean, and it's got a voice, a strong voice. And now I look at it and I say, wow, did I really write that? It's good. It's really good. But at first it was just like, God, thank God I'm finally
done. Yeah, now I can sleep a little bit.
Exactly.
There's the first one again, gang, and then that's available now. Amazon. Where can they go to get this? The Apocalypse.
Yeah, game. Amazon's the spot. You can get it in paperback, hardback, Kindle.
Yeah. And this is the second one that's due out next, right? Congratulations.
It is. Yeah, I was just proofing that today. I think we're targeting September, and we're going to try and be. I didn't know much about book publishing, so we're going to try and do.
You're self-publishing?
We're self-publishing. It's an interesting story. I had a number of mainstream literary agents look at it, and one in LA, for example, loved it and said, "Well, it's got some some Christian themes in it. We can't sell that to the industry right now."
Interesting.
And so then a mid-sized Christian publisher, I got to the owner, and she read it shockingly, because it's 87,000 words. She read it. She came back to me in 24 hours, and it was clear she had read the whole thing, because she asked questions about various sections all the way from front to back, and commented and loved it. She loved it, wanted to publish it. But she, these Christian publishers are smaller. She said, well, we take X percentage and we don't do the marketing. You do it out of your smaller percentage. Well, why would I do that? This book's, no one knows me as an author. This book needs some marketing, so I got to spend some money. And so why, so in the end, we decided to self-publish. So that's the journey we're on.
It's a learning curve with that too, right? That's a whole other thing. I know you have family members that have done self-publishing of books, and it's a whole other, even though you're self-published, you're doing a lot of it yourself, which is a whole new thing, right? New skill.
Well, and part of why I'm so grateful to be on your program tonight. Yeah, it's fantastic. It gives me a chance to get the message out there.
Absolutely right. What would you say to somebody who is thinking about getting in the writing game, and they've always wanted to, but they never thought what their ideas are worthy, and nobody's going to want to read my stuff, and nobody's going to get me, and they're not going to get what I'm trying to say here? What would you say, to inspire them to take the plunge and go for it? Let it rip, like you said.
Don't listen to the naysayers. Honestly, that's rule number one. If you have a story to tell that you believe in, that you believe people want to hear, need to hear or want to hear. I think you need to write it, and the way to write it is you've got to write something every day, 6 days a week. You've got to at least spend. I mean, I spent years doing this, even as I was doing other things, and but you might just spend 15 minutes a day. But you've got to keep at it, because it keeps the characters alive in your mind, and you've got to stay with those characters day by day. Otherwise, your storyline kind of falls apart, and you have to reinvent it every time you come back to it. So 2 things is, don't listen to the naysayers. Write every day, even if it's a couple of minutes.
You know who agrees with you? Never give up. Somebody that didn't give up for like 100 years. Mr. George Burns is with us tonight.
Oh, fantastic. He's classic.
He is classic. He always pops on towards the latter part, and he's got his cigar and his red pocket square. He said you were amazing, and he's lived through a few apocalyptic times himself, and he can't wait to read the book. And he said you knocked it out of the park, and he thoroughly enjoyed the conversation as he was puffing on his cigar and sipping his martini. He does that. There's a little area down here. He sips his martini.
Well, I would love to share a cigar with him and you. Well, maybe we'll do that one day.
I remember he played God in the movie. So
that's right. Exactly right.
It's all full circle. You got God on your side right there, George Burns. It makes everybody laugh when my aunt collected all kinds of dolls, and when he turned 100, she collected the George Burns one, and it got passed down to me, which is a blessing. So good things, right? Congratulations on this. You got this one, and then this one's coming right out, and then you said, is there 10? Do you foresee 10 in this series? Is that?
I foresee 10 right now. Yeah.
So I find that fascinating. So how are you able to in advance already say there's got to be at least 10 for this to complete?
It's a funny story. Yeah, it's a strange story. Because when I started writing this the story, I decided I was writing it for my kids initially. I have a number of kids. I've grown now, and so I decided, well, I'm going to start in the middle of the story because there are some kids in book 7. And so I wrote book 7. And so I did a lot of my cutting of my teeth on how to write well, or not, but I think well, and on book 7. So book 7 exists, and it really established this presence in the center of the story at a pivotal point in the story. And so I have an idea that roughly, what 8 and 9 are, 10, 11, so I think it's going to be 10 or 11. And that'll bring us towards a climactic ending of this age of the world. And really, if you look at Christian tradition to the beginning, the apocalypse as envisioned in the book of Revelations, but also there's a lot of tradition around that's not in the book of Revelations, is the Catholics, for example, call it the cleansing, that there are 3 phases to the cleansing. And so at the end of book 4, we're at the end of the first phase of the cleansing. The cleansing is a Catholic term for, well, it's actually Jesus's term for the separation of the wheat from the chaff. So which is a little bit of a harsh term, but nevertheless, that's what was said. So this book series generally follows the Christian tradition of what Revelations might look like, but from a contemporary view with science. I mean, do we really imagine it's going to look like Revelations might have looked like to James when he wrote it? Probably not, because we have a lot of science, we have a lot of politics, we have a lot of social media, we have a lot of wars, we have all these things going on around the world. So what might it look like? And that's what I've tried to envision in this book series.
That's fantastic. Really cool stuff. And again, for people who want to get a copy of the book, go right to Amazon, because it is available there in various forms. The Apocalypse Game. And this is the very first one. Again, the second one is coming out in September, and there they are back to back, both of them. And we have the author right here, the visionary, the creator of the series. And again, there's much more to come from DC Smith. So we're very excited about that. and we'll have him back on the show. This was really, really terrific. I appreciate, all the comments. We encourage everybody, if you enjoy what we're doing here at the Jim Masters Show live series, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Hit that red subscribe button, click the notification bell so you never miss any of our episodes. And if you enjoyed this episode and all the ones, over 700 episodes we've done so far, with guests from all different backgrounds of celebrity and more, give it a thumbs up, like, and leave a comment. Drop a comment on the YouTube channel as well. DC, this was tremendous. Thanks for joining us here on the show and, just sharing all this time with us and really being authentic and real and opening up about your life and your experiences and how you really, really want to, I think, touch people in a unique way through your incredible works. And we expect much, much more. Melissa says, loved it and enjoyed. All these comments coming in from everybody. Thanks, DC, for being here. The book sounds great. Good luck with everything. Kathleen in New York City. Sherry in Kansas. Thank you for being here with us, DC. Your book sounds fantastic. Can't wait to read. Congratulations on your second book as well. Thanks, DC, for an interesting conversation. It's Merlin in Canada. Juanita in South Africa. This was a great conversation. Thank you, DC, for spending time with us. Congratulations on your books. Good luck with the rest of the series. And Maureen in Arizona. This has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you, DC, for giving us a peek into your writing and your creative mind. Best of luck on subsequent books. I'm sure there'll be a huge success. Absolutely. I agree. This was terrific. I hope the show met whatever expectations you had, DC, and you enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with you, my friend.
Well, Jim, thank you very much. What a joy to hear from your audience. That's really a great pleasure. Thanks for the comments. And Jim, thanks for the show. It's a great show. I love the format and how relaxed it is.
The pleasure is all mine. Future. I appreciate that. Your lips to God's ears, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's right. This was a real pleasure, my friend. You be well. Congratulations on the books. Again, everybody go to Amazon to get the various versions and forms you want. Hardcover, soft, Kindle. They're all available there for you. And good luck with everything. Congratulations on it all. And yeah, was that an aha moment, that ding? Did you just have an aha moment? Either that or
somebody was sending a message. I need to mute that.
That was a message from above. Either that or your stomach's craving a sandwich. Thanks, my friend. It was a pleasure. Good luck with everything.
Thanks, Jim. What a pleasure. All right. Thank you.
Spread the word about our show. We would love that too. If you know other folks like to pop on, spread the word. Takes a village.
Yes, it certainly does. I will do that. Yeah, thanks.
Take care, my friend.
God bless.
Yeah. You as well. DC Smith joining us here on the Jim Masters Show, and a real pleasure to have him here. Again, author of that epic series that just got launched. This is the book. This just came out in May, gang. We figured we'd only chat for about an hour. We chatted a little bit longer. We just let it roll. We let it rip, as DC said, which was cool. He had a lot to share and a lot to say. So this is a brand new series, the Apocalypse Game. And you're going to tie into some current events of today in this series. There is the second book that's going to be coming out not too long from now. And there they are, back to back. We appreciate DC joining us here, author of the Apocalypse Game series. He anticipates about 10 in the series. That's going to be fantastic. Really, really. So again, you can check it all out on Amazon.com. And we appreciate DC for spending this time with us. Great guy. Wonderful outlook on life. And just really a pleasure having him join us here on the Jim Masters Show Live. Every show is something unique, special, different. A lot of time and effort goes into the content that we create for all of you, and we appreciate that. If you'd like to support us, you can do a super thanks on our YouTube channel. That helps us as well. Or there's always super chat, super emojis, super stickers, and all that during the live chat. But if you ever miss the opportunity to do that during the live chat, there's always super thanks that you can do. That is something that is a little heart icon, sits right there on every episode. I want to let you know, and thanks to those of you who've been doing that, who've been helping support all these hours and all the effort that goes in here. So we love doing this for all of you, presenting all these great shows. They are very special and unique, and everything is something different. I also wanted to thank everybody who's been writing us and sending messages, tweets, and emails, and Facebook and Twitter, just sharing with us how much you're enjoying the Jim Masters Show live series. If you're new, we welcome you. There's over 700 episodes so far and counting as of today, well over 700 that you can peruse and binge watch. Coming up tomorrow, we have the cast and crew, the entire cast and crew, all of them. They're all excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of Incognita's Infamous Adventures. This is a really popular musical and web series, and the entire cast and crew are going to be here tomorrow. We're looking forward to that, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific here. And then we've got a music legend joining us on Friday. That's going to be at an earlier time, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. That's on Friday. Kenny Etchison is going to be with us, session musician, guitarist. He's played with them all. I don't want to give too much away, but he's going to be with us on Friday. I just want to scoot ahead to Monday because we've got another icon, music legend from the famed group The Turtles. Andy Cahan is going to be with us. He's an extraordinary keyboardist, guitarist, drummer. Really, drummer and keyboard is what his claim to fame is, but he's worked with, oh boy, let's see, who could we name here? Jimi Hendrix he's worked with, just to name a few. And of course, he was part of the Turtles as well. He's worked with them all. And again, I don't want to reveal too much, but he'll grace us with his presence on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That's really exciting. That just got announced today, and we're very excited about that. So really, really cool. Maureen says, incredible, over 700 shows. I remember when you were closing in on 300. I know. That was like 10 minutes ago, wasn't it? The 300? That went by in a New York minute, as I always say, the 300. Every show is superb. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Maureen, watching in Arizona, USA. We'll check in with a couple here, and then we'll wrap up for the evening. Melissa Barnes, it's so good to have you here. You're now one of our Jim Master Show regular Lovity viewers. Regularly, if you say regular and Lovity together, you create the word regularly. Try to Google that, man. Somewhere somebody says that. Great show, Jim. Thank you. You're a Lovity on the Jim Master Show Live. Juanita says, great show, Jim. Love the authors. Thank you, Juanita, for chiming in this evening as well here on the Jim Master Show Live series. Nice to see you as well here in Lovity Hall. Kathleen Walker, thank you very much. She just did a super chat. Great show. Thank you, Jim. You never disappoint. Kathleen Walker in New York City with a really, really cool color. Isn't that a nice shade of like blue? Makes me think of the ocean. Makes me want to dive in the ocean right about now. Thank you, Kathleen. That's one of the super chats you can do when the show's live. If you ever miss an opportunity to do that to help support our series, there's a heart icon. Looks like a little heart, and it's called Super Thanks. You can do that. And thanks to those of you who have done that as well. Good stuff. You guys are fantastic. We send you all the very, very best. And we hope, you're having a good day. And Sherry, thank you for your kind words as well. You guys, hang in there and keep smiling and come back for some laughs, some great guests, some terrific conversation. We send you nothing but the very best. DC is a Lovity now for sure. Absolutely. And if you have a day that's not going well, join us. We're always here as often as we can possibly humanly be. And we thank you for all the time, and thanks for all the Lovity. And we'll try to put a smile on your face as often as we can. And we learn something. We always have a cool time together. I'm a very interactive guy, very interactive host. So we always try to make this a fun experience for us all. With all the craziness that sometimes happens when you're live too, which makes it exciting, I shall say. Best place to be, Juanita says, Lovity Hall. Yes, with all you in it, and everybody who's watching quietly, who they'll send me a private note. Oh, I don't chat, during the chat, Jim, but I love the show, and I just want to slip you this note. Thank you to you as well. And those of you who just watch, who never comment to us directly, but you leave comments on our YouTube channel, Thank you very much. And we invite and welcome you to leave a comment on the YouTube channel underneath the episode. Let us know how much you enjoyed this, because it really helps our show. YouTube sees it and they blast these episodes out even further to more people. So it really helps when you leave comments on the YouTube channel, and we thank those of you who have been doing it. And one more reminder, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, Jim Masters TV, home to the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Variety Talk Show series. We don't do this as a typical interview show. We do it as a talk show series with entertainment and lots of other cool things. And give it a like as well with that thumbs up. That helps us as well, big time. A couple more comments coming in. Pam is here. Good to see you, Pam. Enjoy the archives. Great, Jim. You're the best host. Thank you very much, Joan. I really appreciate that. That means the world to me, your kindness and your words. We work hard, and it's something that I do professionally as well, and thoroughly enjoy it. Thoroughly enjoy it. And Sherry says, Jim and Lovities are such a blessing. Thank you very much. As are you, Sherry. And Kathleen in New York City. You as well. Have a great night. Yeah, we're really excited. It's going to be a lot of fun with the entire cast and crew of Incognita's Infamous Adventures. Everybody's raving about this musical series, and they're all going to be here tomorrow. And then another music legend, Kenny Etchison, is going to be with us. And he's played with the greatest. He's one of the greatest himself. He's going to be with us too. Lots of great guests coming up. You're going to be blown away by some of the people that are joining us here on the Jim Masters Show. Take care. Love one another. Be good to one another. Be good to yourself. Make sure you do that. We thank DC Smith for joining us, author of the Apocalypse Game book series. There's the first book and the second book right there. Great guy, great conversation. If you missed anything, you can see it all in its entirety right here on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Maureen says, I agree 1,000%. Sherry, I don't know where I'd be without Sir Jim and the Lovity Squad. Thank you very much. And thank you, Pam, as well, and everybody. You guys are the best. Go stretch those legs and eat now. Go eat. Yes, get the circulation going and go eat. We shall do that. Thanks for being with us, gang. We love you all. We don't say goodbye here. We say see you later. Ciao, cheers, slancha, hasta la vista, avida zain, shalom, moi loop, sayonara, and take care and be well. We'll see you on the next episode of the Jim Masters Show live series. Thanks for being with us on this one. You take care, be well. We'll see you again soon on the next one. I'll be right here waiting for you. Watching live, we'll see you on the next one. For those of you who are watching this later on in the archives, stay right here. Another great episode comes right up on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Take care and be well. Cheers.